Alright, next project of the day. We have a Dunkirk Empire 2. This is my heating system, tankless hot water. And I've got a little bit of a problem over here. We've got a bolt that's popped out because this is all rusted because we've got a gasket failure over here. So I came down the other day and there was a puddle of water, still a little bit around there. You can see it's definitely been wet, and this is the remains of the bolt. So we're going to try to yank that out and put a new one in. Actually bought a new one already, same thing, the ULT-5 Therma-flow. Alright, so step one, shut power off. I've already shut the breaker off too, just to make sure. And yeah, I think what we want to do is get this guy out of the way. So let's start there. So to get this control box off, it looks like unscrew this back most of the way, and then I kind of gave it a push in. It kind of snapped off, and it looks like this is all going to allow me to slide this whole probe right out of here. So you can see there's just like a little finger that grabs in there. So hopefully I can just set this aside, keep it out of the way. Maybe we'll see if we can find a bungee cord or something. Yeah, with that control box out of there, you can really see that it's getting pretty nasty. Okay, so draining my domestic side here, I've got one of my faucets open upstairs. I had a pretty good splash of water for a second. I think the next step is going to be down here, drain the bottom of the boiler out. See if we can get all the water out. Yeah, that's probably going to freeze up later. I'll probably end up on my rear end walking out there. But anyways, it's draining. I opened that vent up and closed that valve, so hopefully the rest of the system will stay the way it is. One thing I noticed that made me nervous early on was this little brass fitting here. That's where the heat sensor goes in. That's got to come out. So I think I'm going to try to get that out before I cut anything, just in case that doesn't work out. Once I cut those pipes, it's kind of the point of no return. So let's try it. Just for reference, it's 1 1/16 inches. I prefer a 6-point. It is brass, so don't really want to strip it. Wow, that's in there tight. May have to do something different here, like a torch. Or just a little more elbow grease. It did pop free. Not too much force than I put on it in the last clip. I may have a geyser when this comes out, we'll see. Nope, no geyser. Well, that's good. There it is. Clean that up a little before we put it in the new one. I shined my flashlight in there and it looks like my water level is more than below this this level here, so I shut the drain off. I think we're good. So I think what I'm going to do when I cut this is cut like right there and maybe like right there, so I'm hoping that I can reuse everything. I only have 2 couplers, that's all I bought, and 1 short piece of pipe. But I think I can reuse everything. I mean, there's no reason why not. Oh, I did buy these end pieces too, but I mean, everything else is solid. I don't see why I can't reuse it. Well, I changed my mind. I think I'm going to cut there and cut there. I got them all nice and cleaned up, so I either did the hard work while it was easy or wasted a bunch of time, and I'll end up replacing all the copper. But regardless, I think next step, try loosening up all those bolts before I cut anything. We'll see how that goes. Oh, I guess I already loosened up. Well, not exactly where I wanted to cut it, but it's close. I can't really swing my tubing cutter in too many directions here. Oh well. Alright, so after a little pounding around the edges, it seems like it's coming out. I'm a little worried because this bolt has been re-tapped. I can tell they drilled next to it, and that one obviously broke off, so I'm scared what I'm going to find on that corner. I hope things aren't too rotten on the cast iron. Don't know what to do if that's the case. New boiler, I guess. Man, that would suck, huh? It almost seems like something's holding it, but I think it's right up here. That gasket, that old gasket is just plain shot. It worries me because the new one's exactly the same. I just hope I get more than 7 years out of this one. Well, there she be. Old, yucky. Yeah, it's definitely leaking through. Oops, I guess the camera wasn't pointed very well, was it? My bad. Alright, so I've gone around and got most of the old gasket off. There's still a lot of cleanup that needs to be done on there though. So I got another couple of problems here. This stud was not in all the way, so there's issues there. I don't know whether I can drill it out a little more and tap it. Maybe the last one broke off. Obviously that's a problem. And this one, like I said before, you can see where the old one was there. Somebody tried to drill it out and they gave up and went with new stock. So I don't know if I want to try to correct that or not. That could be a challenge. I think we'll start with this one because obviously we have to do something there. So maybe file it off flat, punch it, and try to drill it. So the other thing that I noticed was my kit came with all new bolts, and I was all gung-ho. I got one of them out. Oops, there we go. I got one of them out with the pliers. The oh, what do you call them? I forgot where I put them. These guys. There we go. Vice grips. It's getting late. But in the end, I found these that are in there now are stainless steel, and these are not. So I would much rather have stainless in there. I'm not sure if it's worth pulling these out and replacing. I don't know where I'm even going to find any. I know I can order them online, but that's obviously not an option. So maybe a trip to the hardware store for some stainless bolts and then cut the ends off. That would work. But first things first, let's see if we can get that thingy out of there. So I was able to punch that and then drill it with a small, a little bit, probably about 1/8 of an inch or so bit. So now we'll try going up and see if we can get the rest of it out. So these bolts that go in there are 3/8/16, and did a little looking around here online and found, I don't know if you can read that, but it actually uses a 5/16 bit because we're going to end up tapping that out. So I went up to, from the 1/8 I had in there to about a 3/8. Reamed it out just a whisker to try to keep center, and then I went all the way up to the 5/16, and I'm just starting to drill that out now. So let's continue on. Try to keep it as level as we can, somewhere right about there. Safety glasses are a good idea. I already got a little piece in the eye. I'll be okay. Okay, so that hole is cleared out. Got the 3/8/16 tap, so we're going to try running that through. I'm a little worried because there is still some stainless around there, and that stuff just tends to bind and gall something terrible. So I guess we'll just go easy with it. Hopefully we don't get the tap stuck. It's actually not going too bad. I think I've pretty much managed to get in the old threads. Unfortunately, I probably didn't help them out with the drill bit, so it'll be a little sloppy in there, but as long as it holds, I think it will. Alright, so I got the temperature probe all cleaned up here, so I'll take a little bit of this Teflon goopy stuff. It's a technical term. Just kind of work that around. Oh, my hands are filthy from cleaning that thing. Doesn't have to be too precise, but you want to kind of make sure you got relatively even coverage. Okay. It's a good idea to always put it on the male threads too, not the female, that way you're not driving too much stuff in. I'll go get my wrench and tighten it up and we'll be good. Alright, we're making some progress. That's pretty well cleaned up. I've dry fitted all my pipes. I'm reusing pretty much everything. Ended up only having to add one coupler there because this fitting I broke free with the torch. Important to remember as you're putting everything back together, clean, clean, clean. You want this nice and bright and shiny. I've been using 220 grit sandpaper and some Scotch-Brite. If I can find a piece I'd show you. Here it is. Something like that. Just to make that all nice and bright and shiny. We want that all prepped up before we start soldering. So everything's dry fitted. I think we're pretty much good to go here. Made a trip to the local hardware store. Picked up some carriage bolt stainless steel. So I'll end up cutting those down to about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4. Some stainless steel washers and some stainless steel nuts. Could have used the original stuff that came with it. This is kind of just a nice to have. I want to keep it stainless. That way it won't rust. Alright, let's get to work. Okay, so that's the first stud. Just cut the head off that bolt. If you're ever trying to clean these ends up, I hit it with the file pretty good, but always works best to take a bolt and just run it down the back way, out the end that you cut, and that'll usually get rid of any burrs and straighten everything out. Alright, just got 2 more of those to make, and then we'll be cooking. Although it's not quite factory specs, it's not bad. So again, just take and run your bolt down just to make sure. Okay, that's going to go through my cut end just like that. No resistance at all. Perfect. So one thing I did have to account for was this bolt here that got broken off the last time this was replaced, and somebody added this one down a little further. So I tried drilling it out again and made no headway, and maybe it was a hardened steel one or something, who knows, but I decided to reuse it. So I ended up cutting this with an X-Acto knife. A leather punch or something would have worked well, but I don't have one, so that's okay, whatever. I'm going to have to also drill, obviously, the new piece going in, so let's measure and do that now. So using my gasket as a template, I lined this up right there, whaled that with the center punch. Got a little bit of a divot. I always like to start with a small drill bit. At least to kick things off. That way your large bits tend to walk more than the small ones. It's a little more precise. Alright, now that we got our small hole drilled, we can go right up to the manufacturer's size of 7/16. Seems a little big for what we're doing, but that's fine. I'll give some extra clearance. Okay, time to retract that last statement. I had to ream that one out a little bigger, that one out, and I think this one's got to be reamed out a little bit too. Just not fitting. Hopefully you can still see. I'm not too much in the way. Alright, that appears to have done it. Going oversized on that guy, and that one. Just a whisker. So now that it fits, I think we can move on. There's a little bit of surface rust along there, as well as some burrs from my drill, so I hit it real quick with the file, went over it with some Scotch-Brite, and then just followed up with a damp paper towel just to clean all the gunk off of there. I want to have that surface as clean as I can get it when we get ready to put it back together. I'm going to do the same thing on the boiler too. So I've been struggling a little bit with what to use on there, whether I should just go dry with the gasket or whether to use RTV or something. So I decided on this stuff, Permatex Black. It is oil resistant. It's more for probably oil pans and automotive use and stuff like that, but I think it'll work. So we'll give it a shot. Basically the drill, you put it on there, assemble everything wet, let it sit for about an hour, and then do a final torque. So I think we're going to give that a go. Well, it kind of made a mess, but I tried to get good coverage. I tried to do like 3 passes. So we'll toss the gasket on, I guess. So I think I put way too much on the first time, so I did only 1 bead here. I think it's going to squish out nicely, and it's nice and flat, so see if we can slide it in. Hopefully it'll be here for the next 20 years. Alright, just like that, I think. I think we own it. Throw some bolts on, some washers, call it good. Alright, so I've gone around and tightened these all, not much at all. It's just above hand tight. Just enough to hold everything there. We're going to leave it for about an hour or so, and then we'll come back and torque it up. Have no idea what the torque spec is, but I would think it doesn't need to be that tight. That gasket's pretty beefy. So it's not really going to go anywhere. Just got to hold it there. You really don't want to squish the gasket all to hell either. I suppose while we're waiting we can solder up some of our other connections here. So even though this stuff is brand new, always a good idea to clean it. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper because it's what I have. You could probably use emery cloth or something like that. Probably would be better, but whatever. I'm using what I got. So we'll clean them up, we'll throw some paste on there, and then we'll solder them up. Alright, so once you get your pipes clean, start out with some flux like that. I ran out of memory on my card. Okay, anyway, so once you get your pipes all cleaned up, grab yourself some soldering paste like that. You don't need a whole lot of it, but it does help to make the solder flow a little better. Okay, so this is the end we're going to be using. I'll just kind of dab it around there. This is definitely not going to be a video on how to solder because I'm not the best. I can usually manage. There's probably a lot of people that will correct me and tell me a better way to do it, and that's okay. I'm okay with learning new skills. Alright, I always try to just get pretty good coverage around there. Alright, did do the other side too. Not real heavy, but just enough in there. So go ahead and dry assemble it, and then we solder. This is the first fitting that I've soldered in a long time, so no comments if I don't do it right. That'll probably do. I've always found that the solder will follow the heat, so if you heat a little lower, it tends to kind of come down in. So hopefully that holds. The other thing to do is not overheat the joints too. You really don't need much. This is MAP gas and it heats up pretty quick. I say that because I think I got plenty of heat on this one. And the other thing is let it sit. Let it cool off before you touch it. You don't want to move it when it starts gelling. You'll end up with leaks. Once it does cool, I like to just clean up the excess snot that's on there from the flux. It tends to make a mess afterwards. So while we're waiting, might as well go ahead and start reassembling stuff here. That's the pipe that's going to go there. So again, with our pipe dope, I want to put a reasonably good amount around there. You don't need to go nuts on it, but you do it on the male end only. Oops, male end only. No need to do it on the female side. Stuff looks like cottage cheese. Yummy. Speaking of which, I'm getting hungry. So just for sake of saying, that was probably about 6 times as much as I needed on there, but yeah, whatever. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and thread it in. And of course we're going to have some interference here, so where it stops, nobody knows. I do know I'm going to need a wrench. Alright, we're making some headway. We got that reassembled. We got this one last piece that's going to fit in here, hopefully. It came out, it should go back in. Alright. Oh, this could be a challenge. It's going. It's going to be tight. We're getting down to some of the final connections here. Starting to get a little excited. I might have hot water again. Things you take for granted, huh? I think we're good. It dripped. Whoops. Should be good then. Alright, done a couple of final checks here. I didn't really like how this one came out, but I think it's going to be okay. I hope. This one no problem. And this one up here, he was good too. I drained out, opened that up, ran some water through just to flush any of the crud, so let's go ahead and pressurize. Well, actually it won't pressurize because I left one of the faucets open upstairs, but let's just see if we've got any massive leaks. Not seeing any, that's a good sign. Alright, good, good, good. Yep, good sign. So I kind of guessed at the torque spec. I went about 15 foot-pounds, which seems to be logical for a bolt of that size. Kind of did a crisscross pattern, you know, started at the bottom right, went up to the top left, and kind of came back this way, you know, just kind of worked my way around. So I think it's going to be okay. If you look around the edges, you can kind of see the gasket is just starting to bulge a little bit, not as much as it really looked like it was before, and I think that could have been a failure before. You can see, you know, one spot there where it's kind of squirting out a little bit. I think it's plenty tight enough. I'm not going to go any more with it. And my goop is squirting out, so I think I got good coverage there. Tested this, no leaks so far. So I guess we let it cook for, you know, maybe another 4 or 5 hours, and then we'll load the boiler up with water. The directions on this gasket maker say 24 hours, but I don't know if I'm going to make it that long. Well, the cat says it's time to put water back in the boiler, so why not? Alright, valve up there is still opened up. So it's this one, right? Yeah, this one. Away we go. Huh, disco. Guess my light's dying. Sounds like we're just about done filling. Alright. See if we got hot water. Should. Well, no plumbing job is ever complete without a leak. Right there. I guess we just gotta tighten that up a little more. We can do that. I hope.